Hey, welcome to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Adam, we're starting a new format right now of actually talking a minute or two before we immediately jump into the author.
Ooh, we got an intro going.
We're in a new void.
Oh my, I like it.
I think this is an important part that we want to kind of tee up for our readers moving forward of why do we have this guest on? What are we doing here? What are we hoping to achieve?
So who's our guest today?
Amanda Casile.
Oh, what did she write?
Broken Trail.
Absolutely. And so why do we have her on?
Because we met her. That's spooktastic. And we were
the end. All right, here's the episode.
Okay. We have her on because she's an author that we felt like she was doing really good work, and that comes out in the
What does that mean to you?
Thoughtful topics and ways of writing that focus on specifically for this one motherhood, struggling, and the horrors of being in the woods, which are, as you guys will hear in a few minutes, one of my tropes that I'm always willing to hear about the woods.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of you guys feel the same way. The woods are beautiful and terrifying, and that's why we loved it for both reasons, right?
Yeah. So Amanda was a great guest, and we hope that you enjoy the show coming out here. Thanks so much.
Get ready for some spooky owls and bear shitting in the woods. Enjoy. Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Season 2 begins today. We are so happy to have Amanda Casile on today talking about Broken Trail, her debut novel, and some of the issues that it kind of brings up, the book itself, and all kinds of fun stuff. So without further ado, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for being the first guest of 2026, Season 2.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be the first this year.
And we saw you at Spooktastic as the bookish duck author.
Yeah.
And I guess before that, our daughters kind of had some slang going back and forth that you and Adam were chatting and connecting over about who is your
bias.
Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
We got taken to school in early junior high language.
Yes.
So, and then we kind of got a little bit more connected. Our daughters hung out at Spooktastic and got to hang out with Alyssa and go to dinner and everything. So we've had you on our list since September to come onto the podcast. So thank you for joining. And we're just so excited to dig in to Broken Trail with you today.
So it's funny, the title and just, and I don't know, and we can edit anything that you tell us, you don't want to talk about. Just, it's almost was kind of a broken trail itself in getting this book out there, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah. So I don't know. I think I don't want to get into specifics because I know maybe you can't and stuff like that. But I just want to say, what is that like? You're so excited, books coming out, all that kind of stuff. And then there's just these obstacles maybe of it finally getting into readers' hands. What does that feel like as an author to be like, oh my God, I just want people to read this book?
It's kind of funny. I mean, I almost through the whole process, it has felt a little bit cursed. Like the book itself is cursed. And it's almost been giving me doubts of through the process of like the universe being like, oh, wait, we changed our mind. And this book it's not meant to be out there. So in that way, it's been a little bit disheartening. Another way, it's actually been like kind of interesting because it's been such a long lead up. I signed my contract almost 2 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's been a long lead up, which has actually allowed the book time to connect with more readers and people like you guys. And so, in a way, it's been this sort of just like slow rolling, ongoing experience, which has kind of been nice almost. So, it's a little bit of both.
Well, I do appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable and like sharing that, like, this is broken trail, broken road, broken experience. You always think of those memes where people show what people think is happening and what success is. Sometimes it's like they'll show the iceberg
Hmm.
or like the duck on
The
top of the
duck, yeah.
water and then the feet going like crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally me. I'm bookish duck.
There you go. Your little quackers were going. And but that's the reality. And I just love hearing that you had endurance and perseverance and that you were like absolutely not accepting this cursed experience. And in what ways would you recommend to other authors to just keeping with that? Like what did you tell yourself and how would you encourage another author?
I
Because
mean,
you're not alone.
yeah, thanks. I guess, like, really the only direction to go in is forward. So it didn't really feel like another option. And I also have just been like trying to keep busy with other projects. And so, I mean, that would be my main advice is like never kind of stop and rest on your laurels, because if you do, those laurels might just start wilting and then you'll be stuck with only them. So you need to.
Very inspiring words. And Adam had introduced me to some great Marvel comics and DC. You know where I'm going with this.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, your favorite, my favorite, always forward, never backwards.
Oh, yes, Luke Cage. Yeah.
Yes, so inspiring. So, I mean, that's something I think we could always tell each other as we're going, right? It's like so easy to look at it all. But if you say always forward,
Yeah.
that's it's a lot of some days you're gonna have to really tell yourself
Oh,
that.
yeah. And it's funny because, when it comes to the book, these characters kind of have no choice but to do the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's true. I
In a
mean,
literal sense, yeah.
it is very much like hiking. You just gotta keep trekking on, and sometimes you're trekking on up a massive hill in a rainstorm
Yeah.
and your food is run out and stuff,
Uh,
but you gotta just keep going.
Did you feel like your book, even though despite all the troubles that it just needed to be born, is that like why you felt like there's just no other choice?
In some ways, yeah. I mean, for all I complain about this book, actually, I really love it. It was the fastest book I ever wrote, and the first one that I really like took a lot from personal experience, which is kind of a funny thing to say if you've read the book. But there's more of my personal experience in this book than the other ones I had written previously, and so like I did feel strongly about it and feel strongly that like it would get its day to shine and that it was something that deserved to be out there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you saying that there is a lot of personal things to it. I'm going to be very interested in seeing where those come in as we talk about, some of the book. But I think the first thing that I want to talk about is your main character, Clara, and this is such a complicated person, and it just makes the book so interesting to read because she is a real person. Like, this is not a hero, this is not a villain, this is not, you know, just a cookie cutter person. And when we think about unreliable narrators, she is one, but she knows it, and she's aware of that, and she's unreliable to herself, and that, like, lends to, like, even more really interesting sort of, like, thoughts and things and actions in the book. So, I just kinda wanted to get your thoughts and how Clara came to be as she is in the book.
That's a really good question. I think if it hasn't been apparent from all I've said already, I tend to have spirals of doubt sometimes.
Yeah.
And just like on a small, normal human scale, but it got me thinking of like, what if I had a character that was almost like a caricature of that, like
Yeah.
just constantly doubting herself and basing all of her decisions on her own self-doubt and kind of being like, well, if I think this is the right choice, then probably the other choice is the right choice. And I can't trust myself, and kind of playing around with really like pushing the dial up on that like sort of normal, realistic level of indecision and self-doubt, and just pushing it a little bit into the extreme. So yeah, that was part of it. That was like the main motivation behind her traits, I would say, most of her traits.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, and I think, Rebecca, you too, we do those very similarly. And I think that, it might be sort of something that a lot of empaths or empathic people have. So it's, very natural then that this character is a therapist, right?
It's funny that you say
Very
that.
much.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think her being a therapist really, like, I think it makes the book.
Yeah.
But she was actually a writer for most of the existence of the manuscript. And it was only in like, I think the second round of editing with my editor that we were like, wait a second. And the main impetus for changing her career was because my editor was like, it's not realistic for her to be able to own a house being just a writer.
I bet that felt great.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she was
Hey,
like,
let
you
me
gotta
just
give her
let
a
me come here, come
different
here, come
career.
here. Let me just punch you in the face.
Yeah, exactly. You sure you want to do this? You're not going to have a house. No, I'm kidding. So was she originally like a journalist writing about Juliana? Like, how did those characters originally like kind of intersect for the main, trunk of the
Yeah, I
story?
mean, that's the thing, like, it was I'm gonna be totally honest, it was a little bit weak, the connection back then, which is why, like, I love when I had, like, the light bulbs to make her a criminal psychologist.
Yeah.
It, like, total everything fell into place. But no, she was actually a novelist, and she had signed a 3-book deal where the 3rd book hadn't been fully like, she didn't have an idea yet. She sort of, like, cobbled together just, like, a premise to send to the editor that bought it. But she basically sold the 3rd book on spec, and then got to the point where she needed to write it, and she had, like, no ideas, and she was coming off a recent divorce and was feeling really crummy and couldn't commit to any ideas. And so then her friend in the book, Naomi,
Hmm.
said that she heard about this occurrence on the trail, and maybe that would be a cool premise for a novel, and she could, like, get some information from the person who experienced it and, like, interview her. But yeah, it was gonna be a fiction, like, she was gonna write a fictional novel just loosely based off of it. So it was weak at best. I think it's much better now.
Well, I mean, that's, essentially the entire first third of the book had to be rewritten then, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun.
And I have to say, like, there's a lot of really, and we'll get into some of the creepy, kind of parts of once they are actually on their journey. But I think some of the scariest parts are at the beginning when she's interviewing and sort of all those things that happen that end up with Clara, on this trail with Naomi and their kids. Like, was that when I'm just thinking, as a writer, like going back and saying, like, ooh, I get to add some really like creepy, whatever you want to call it, whatever the right word is, but the facility where she's being held, all that kind of stuff is just those scenes, and then also that sort of idea of the psychologist that is getting way too close to the patient, right? All that kind of stuff really lends to a lot of really good drama.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why, like, kind of when I had the idea, because I was like going through different careers, I was like, what on earth could I have her be? And so when I had that idea, I was kind of like, how was this not the story from the beginning? Like, how was this not? It just was meant to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, I'm going to interrupt what you guys are
Yeah.
saying, and I'm going to say, I think we need to do a pitch here because I don't think we ever explained to our listener what is Broken Trail about. I think we
You
got
know what?
so excited,
I know. I
and as
get
you're
that
talking,
way. Like, everybody's read it. What are you talking about? Everybody.
yeah. And if
Well,
you
it has
haven't,
been almost
even
2 years, like I said.
Yeah.
even if it's not out yet, you should know.
So the worst possible thing we could say to you, what's your elevator pitch for
Go
the
for the Pinch
synopsis.
Olympics.
I would have perfected it.
Yeah, have you been doing that?
But I have not. But yeah, basically it's about a criminal psychologist, Clara, like we said, who is coming out of a divorce and sort of dealing with her feelings around it by getting a little bit too obsessed with one of her clients, who is a woman, Juliana, who has been accused of murdering her fiance on a newly opened hiking trail. And so as Clara falls deeper into this obsession, she has this genius idea that the way to help her family recover from divorce and also deal with her obsession is to take her whole family on a 4-day hike of that very trail where her client was accused of murder. Yeah, and then things go downhill from there, as you would expect.
Yeah, I think that's a very good pitch. I always think about Royal Paul saying that you have to try to pitch it in 5 words.
Something like that, yeah.
I know it's supposed to be like 2 sentences is what they say for elevator pitches, but
Yeah, I think that's more like, well, hey, better off to Royal if he can do that.
Well, I think it was that he was saying that,
5
like, when he's
concepts.
tabling, but he
Yes.
can kinda, like, yell at someone to make them come over.
Yes. So now, but with that being said, I'm interested. Like, as someone who has, listened to true crime or watched, some of these documentaries, even saw the other day, person on TikTok was like saying, I don't know where my wife is. I'm shaking. And you open the comments and everyone's like, no, we know who did this. We know
Oh,
exactly.
I know
And
exactly the one you're talking
you can
about.
get,
Can't wait for that Dateline
yes,
episode.
exactly. Right. So you can easily see how this person can just get a little too involved and a little, it strikes the right nerve and just going downhill. I love that.
And, I don't wanna venture anywhere into, like, spoiler territory, but, like, as they're going out on this trip, there's maybe some questions as to what state Juliana is in at that point. Is that fair to say?
yeah, I mean, that's a good way of putting it,
She's
yeah.
drunk.
You know what? I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So, this hiking trail, obviously we live almost on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
This is in the Pacific Northwest. What is your background with that area? I know that you kind of have at the beginning that this isn't like a specific trail, but more like an area that you know of. Like, how much that inspires sort of, not just the setting, but kind of the things that you knew were going to happen throughout the story.
Well, so I've done a ton of hiking in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm in the greater Vancouver area specifically because I lived in Vancouver until 3-ish years ago. And I actually used to even have a hiking blog. So I
You're
did
like
a lot of hiking.
legit. Yeah.
Sorry.
I said, so these details in this book on the trail are legit.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make them as legit as I could, yeah. And I actually my blog was hiking with babies. So not like the teens in the book, but I have a lot of experience hiking with my kids as well.
Yeah.
Um, so that informed a lot of it. And then also, I mean, I can't remember if I talked to you guys about this or you might have heard me say it elsewhere, but I actually got the idea for this book while hiking on a trail called Brothers Creek in just outside Vancouver. And I was hiking with my best friend and her 2 daughters and my 2 daughters. And I just started thinking like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And
Love
that
that.
was sort of the seed that started this whole Broken Trail
So
book.
this book is birthed out of an intrusive thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it sounds a lot more like when it comes to actual hiking, you're a lot more Naomi than Clara then, huh?
I mean, no. I'm better than Clara, but I would say I'm not.
You're a little more prepared when you get out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like to be prepared. I was always the one that actually brought too much food when go hiking because I'm like, the worst thing is being in the woods and being hungry.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had this boss who I think they were just doing some gentle hiking, but she had like a toddler. Shout out to Janet. And she's hiking with her dad, and they got on the conversation about what if a bear came out? And she straight up told her dad, all I got to do is trip you, Dad, and then get out of here. That was one of the first stories she ever told me upon hiring me. And I was
That's
like,
so
I
funny.
definitely want to work for you. Immediately, where do I sign?
Look, you save yourself, you save your kid, you know,
and she said it with such laughing and gusto, like it was the funniest fucking thing.
Just don't go anywhere near bear country with her, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, I just felt like that she said the quiet part out loud.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'm tripping my dad. I'm saving me and my child.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I love you, Dad.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, so I mean, as anybody talks about the woods and being out there with food, that's where my head went to. Bears.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, bears do make an appearance in the book.
Yes, they do. I was going to say that. Yeah.
And I have never had like those intrusive thoughts. And yet when I go hiking with you, you're like, do you see how calm the woods are right now? Do you think there's a predator out there?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that's why it's getting quiet? I'm like,
love that.
You cannot come anymore.
Hey, but I'm going to be the one that, you know, you'll trip me once you see the bear, but you'll know it's coming.
Do I have permission?
Yeah, whatever. It's all good.
I would probably trip myself, actually, to survive, because I'd be so nervous. I'd be frozen. Would you run, Amanda? Like, what's the bear tip here?
It depends on what kind of bear.
Yeah.
All right, let's run quickly.
Okay, well, I have encountered some bears, all black bears except ones. And really, you just need to, once they were in our campsite, and you just have to be big and loud and it'll run away. But like if you see a bear on the trail, you sort of just back away slowly. Like don't turn your back on it, back away slowly, and then go in the opposite direction until the bear is out of your way.
I definitely feel like I'm one of those people, like my toxic trait
is you want to pet that bear?
Absolutely, yeah. I do.
Mm-hmm. Don't pet the bear.
Don't pet the bear.
I won't.
So, okay, I have to ask, you said all but one. What was the other one?
So we saw a grizzly bear when we were hiking in Yellowstone, but it was so like we had gone on this trail. We were headed to a river to see if we could see river otters because my kids were obsessed with river otters at that point.
Oh my God, they're the cutest.
They are so cute. And we did see some, not on that trail, but we did end up seeing river otters on that trip, and baby ones, and they were playing.
God.
So it was like, it made my life.
I don't know why this was like a giant Christmas Eve discussion with our like young kids.
The difference between sea and river otters?
Yes, and you had to go through this with them to all your nieces and nephews. We got on this big otter conversation.
River otters cute, sea otters terrifying.
Yeah, sea otters are not nice. I mean, they are cute too, but also not nice.
If you had a nickel for every time you said, "Does a bear shit in the woods?" how much money would you have?
I don't think I've ever.
I was thinking, I don't know. Yeah.
Said that. Maybe once, joking.
I was just curious.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But actually, that brings me back to the grizzly story. So we were on this trail, and we had been hiking on quite a few trails in Yellowstone, and they were always very crowded. This one, there was like no people, and we hadn't gotten bear spray or anything because it was so crowded everywhere. We're like, we probably won't need it. And suddenly we started seeing pretty fresh bear footprints. And then we did see some bear shit. And so then my husband was like, let's just go back to the car. Because if we encounter a grizzly bear out here, it's like the two of us and our two kids who were, I think, 8 and 10 at the time.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, like, let's just, I don't even want to, it probably would be fine, but I don't want to put us in that environment. So we started walking back, and we did, like, just as we were getting back to the car, like well across the way, but like towards the trail where we had just been walking back from, there was a grizzly bear there in the grass. And so we were like, oh, good call. Because we would have.
Yeah, like a narrow miss. Not narrow, but could have been. Like,
yeah.
Good,
like there indeed was a bear there.
All right. So you trust your instincts.
Yeah.
How much money would you have if trusting your instincts was a nickel? How much money would you have?
More than Clara.
That is very true.
Yeah. I feel like I want to do more laughing on this podcast. 2026. So I'm sorry for the silliness, but
no, I love it. I feel like I have been laughing the whole time.
Yeah. And like, even when like you're sitting here and you're talking about like the bear shit, I'm thinking that's scat, right? Like that's how we say it. And then I picture the Jurassic Park scene in my head where
Oh, the
she's like
giant.
digging. I'm like,
Yeah.
how large? Because we have a lot of trails around here with horseback riders.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention,
You're going to have a bad day.
you will. You
Yeah.
absolutely will. So are we talking like that level of?
I'm guessing a bear shits pretty voluminously.
This is why I'm asking.
Yeah.
She's the
I
expert
mean,
I
in
know.
bear shit,
not like a triceratops.
but more than a horse.
I mean, horses shit a lot. There's like and it's usually like along the trail. Like they
It is.
while they're
But you
walking.
know what? I don't mind it. It makes me happy that these horses are got to like get out and ride. There's only certain trails around here that
Yeah.
it's one of our favorite ones to go into.
Mhm.
So, okay. So back to shitty human beings and less about bear shit.
Or maybe not shitty human beings, but one of my favorite parts of this book, and you kind of just touched on the fact that your bog was hiking with babies and everything. I love all of the parenting and the relationships between these teens or preteens and Clara and Naomi on this. And it is so realistic and, for better or for worse. And I love how you brought that into it and just sort of wanted to see how important that was. It obviously brings a lot out in Clara and, getting her mindset on things, but just sort of, obviously it came from real life that you hiked with children, but bringing that into the story, why was that so important? And, just sort of your view on parenting in general in those situations, especially high stress situations.
Well, I mean,
Thanks.
I think, going back to that sort of like impaired decision making and having a lot of doubts, I feel like parenthood is a lens that brings that into very high relief. And so I think for Clara, being a parent, especially in her high stress situation of like, her family is kind of falling apart. And then also, like, once they're stuck in what's happening in the story, too, being a parent just like emphasizes all of the things that are already difficult for her and things that stress her out and make her doubt herself. So I knew from the very beginning, obviously, that I wanted my main character to be a mom because I think it's such a high intensity situation to be in.
Absolutely. It is.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
when
not
you say
disagreeing.
like parenthood, they have that whole thing like parenthood is a walk in the park. Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Which is like, but it's also like there are a lot of dangers if you take your eyes off the kids, right? Like just in general, being out in nature, like you can enjoy those things.
I think too, though, it's interesting because one of the other things I like about writing about motherhood is that while it does lend itself to all that like stress and self-doubt and horror in a lot of ways, it also is like one of the most rewarding things.
Joy,
is
wonderment.
And so I wanted, like, I think it's such a cool, like, when the main character is a parent, you get to show so much. Like, you get to show the caring side and the parental side and also the very, like, fearful and horrified side, kind of all in the same package.
Yeah.
And I hope that came through with Clara and that, like, she would literally die for her kids, but also most of the time, she feels like they're making her life 10 times harder.
No, I love that idea that like, because she, both because of things that are happening in the story and also, the fact that she is going through some very intense things just in her personal life outside of all of this crazy stuff. She's in her head so much and there's so many times, like as a parent, you've got to figure the shit out. Like you're not allowed to be in your head. Like, it's like, you've got to figure out where to, put your tents. It's like, obviously it starts to rain. That creates whole issues, food, all this kind of stuff where it's like, sorry, buddy, you can't feel sorry for yourself right now. You got to figure it out.
Well, that kind of takes us back to the beginning where we said, like, you don't have that choice. And I'm wondering if you felt like that actually spurred your character on for survival because you'll do anything for your child. So you're not going to lay down and give up. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I feel like there definitely like are very concrete moments in the book where she's like, I'm just going to give up. And then she's like, no, I can't because people are relying on me.
I love how we're willing to do things for our children, but a lot of times we won't do it for ourselves in the situation like that. I think that's the other extension of
Hmm.
motherhood,
Yeah,
fatherhood, or just love, right?
definitely. I agree. Like it takes you, like, it's no longer just about you. And so you need to kind of think about the whole unit, like whole family unit or whole like both families camping. There's all those dynamics. And that was like definitely a thread through the whole thing of like the things we do, not even just for our kids, but for other family members. So even with I mean, not to get too spoilery, but with the other kind of subplot that weaves in
Uh,
with Clara's towards the end, there's also that part where like a character is doing anything for their family members,
Right.
for better or for worse.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really wanted to sort of show the power in that, like family bonds in general.
Yeah, and I think that there's one, and again, trying to tiptoe around what exactly is happening in the scene, but there is a scene involving her two daughters where, as a parent, I think sometimes having control or even like understanding what is going on inside like maybe your child's head, and when they're acting in a way that's like very different than they normally would, to the point that it might be a threat to you or your other child. Like there's that one scene where I'm just like, as a parent, I'm like, this is the number one, like this is such a nightmare, and you captured it so well, and it's both like terrifying, awesome, and like I just thought like there's a couple of instances where something like that happens in the book, and like were you thinking like what is the scariest thing to me as a parent or as somebody maybe that's in the middle of nowhere with other people, like where did those things come from, like cuz it's very original to me.
Oh, good. I'm glad it came across as original. I don't actually know how I think um like, I'm primarily a pantser. I do sort of, like, plot out a little bit ahead of where I am just so I know what's happening, but
Right.
I honestly think, like, the one scene you're talking about, which I think is the one with Maddie, the
Yes.
kid,
Yes.
that one kinda just came, like, I was
Ooh.
just writing what was happening in that day of their camping, and then that one just kinda came organically, so it wasn't even really, like, pre-planned, like I had a thought of, "I want this to happen," but I'm glad it did happen because it is one of my favorite scenes too.
Yeah, that was one I had to take a breath after, like, and then it's sort of like a callback and almost an escalation of what happened in that scene a little bit later on, and, like, as the reader, you're like, "Oh god, I know what's happening," and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna suck." You know? And I think you know what I mean, and
It
readers, when
does.
you read it, I think you'll know what I mean when I say that, and I just love that, and that's sort of like one of the themes of the book, I think, is this escalation of both dread and like real danger that just like builds like a mudslide, like a landslide that kind of is happening, in the story too, of like everything it just adding on to it, and like the situation that's like kind of going downhill gets worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden it's almost like you're suffocating, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I really feel like the trope of anything with the woods, I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
But I
And I
feel
want
like
to
you've put
talk about that
and
in a
say, but
second.
I feel
Yeah.
like you've put your own, like, just some of these moments, hearing that, typically you're the pantser,
Hmm.
and seeing where that goes. I feel like we've had a couple authors on here that have said like, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was going to come out." So that's really fun. But like a- anything within the woods, like I just think that's one of the yes, I want to read it. I want to
Yeah.
read what's happening there because there's just unlimited. You just don't know what's going to happen. So the pacing and that levels of intensity are so great.
Yeah, good. I am the same way that, like, anything in the woods, I wanna read it because I think, the woods are kind of like a interesting thing because they're so beautiful,
Yes.
and there is almost this, like, sense of not necessarily safety, but like serenity when you're walking through the woods, but also like you could die like very easily, and people do. Yeah. And so that's why I love it because it's this like you go there for peace. And that's why I like, there's a line in my book that nature is a balm, with like BALM, balm.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
It is, but it also wants to kill you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dichotomy there.
Well, speaking of the woods, the one thing that I did want to ask, and it's really interesting, it's almost like you talk about some of the things before I'm going to ask about it, because the whole Panther thing I want to talk about when it comes to sort of the last sections of the book. But when did you decide you were going to make owls so fucking scary?
Yeah.
Like, was that like the thing you're like, I'm going to make owls scary again? Everyone loves these things. I'm going to make you wish you never saw one.
First of all, I'm offended. I love owls, like a lot.
The owls in this book are scary, man.
I know.
I love owls too. And, it's funny. I keep talking about like previous iterations of this book because I'm always fascinated also when other authors talk about like how things changed during their process. But like originally, all the owl appearances in the book, the owl was going to be almost like a friendly, like helper character, like watch over and keep you safe character. But then I was like, no, like Clara doesn't deserve anybody watching over her, keeping her safe. So then the owl became very sinister. Yeah.
Well, I used to have what I like to refer to as my big hooter collection.
Yep.
Several different ceramic owls. Now, there's ones that I keep out all year, but then my big hooter collection
is for autumn.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think they had an accident storing that in the upstairs attic. It's like picture Chevy Chase Christmas Vacation
style attic. Yeah,
style attic,
terrifying.
In the garage, more steep than that, and so it's a much smaller hooter collection now. They're not nearly as big, but love that. And I could you think of any animal really, like it can underscore for, oh, that's cool, or oh, that's really terrifying.
I think that's one of those things too, because I think we've looked at, I teach science, to fifth graders, and we kind of look at things, and when you realize some of these owls, just how big they are, like, because I think we all think of them as these cute little things. It's like these things are massive, and they're carnivore, they're predators,
Yeah.
I love
and they
them.
are creepy, like the way they can turn their head, like
they are. And when you like pull up their pants and their skirt, they
terrifying.
They got really tiny legs.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, really, they're
but the talons are.
Yeah, I know, but I was talking about their bow legs,
spindly legs.
Yeah, yeah. But I love all variations of them. I think. Did want to say though that back to the calmness and the balm of the spirit. One of the first books I read before getting into like fiction, I could read nonfiction beforehand, and you read it with me eventually, but it's called The Art of Forest Bathing, or in Japanese it's called Shinrin Yoku, and it's like you are supposed to go out and literally let the woods bathe you in peace and calmness and tranquility, and the amount of natural resources that are just floating throughout the woods. So there's a section in there in the book where it talks about like if you're actually in the woods for about approximately like 3 hours, that if you're walking, you can actually start to get the like tremendous giggles.
Yep.
And really just like have a giant hysterical laughing fit because you're essentially kind of like high off of everything within the woods. And I could see that being a really cool death scene of like all of a sudden you're in the middle of like cackling and laughing, and then shit goes bad.
Yeah.
And you don't recognize it because you're high as hell on.
It almost reminds me of like, there's a word, is it depth sickness or something, like for divers? If they
the bends.
The bends.
They get like hysterical and make really bad choices, like taking out their regulator and forgetting that they can't breathe.
Oh, yes, that's right. No, that's different. Yeah. No, I know what you. Yeah, that is really interesting, and it's kind of fits the sort of like slipperiness of reality and things that are happening for Clara out in the woods. But I want to say, like, there's a lot of books where it's not until towards the end, or it sets up this mystery of maybe this is going on, maybe that's going on, what it is, and it's really in the sticking of that landing that kind of makes or breaks a book. And so to hear that, when it comes to the last sections of the book, was that also sort of pantsing, or were you like, okay, I know these things are going to happen, because I'll tell you, like, this book sticks its landing perfectly. And, all the questions that you have and all the sort of like, oh, there's all this like promise and all this dread. And it's like a lot of times it like goes like, oh, it was that. It's like this one, I was like, oh, hell yeah, that was awesome. And then the epilogue is even more awesome, So like, I absolutely love the ending to this book. And, did that just kind of happen organically too? Or were you like, I know this is how I want it to end?
Okay, this is another process answer. So I didn't know at all how I wanted it to end. And I was actually stuck on it for a while. And I did finally, like, the ending definitely, like I said, it's the fastest book I ever wrote. But I would say, like, the last quarter of it probably took half the time at least.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know where we were going. Like, I knew I wanted, Clara to complete her arc. And the book had a very different ending, like epilogue wise. So I did manage to finish the ending, obviously. It was one thing. And it always kind of bugged me. So even after I signed the contract with CamCat and after 3 rounds of editing, the ending still bugged me. I was like, I don't feel like it's the ending this book or these characters deserve. And so I like woke up in the middle of the night one night and I was like, wait, no, I know how it ends. And so I had to immediately write my editor and be like, is it too late to make a change? Because I want to
Wow.
change the whole end.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so now it has the ending, like specifically like what happens in the epilogue, like the very
Okay.
end.
Yes.
Which I agree. I feel like it's the ending that the book and all the characters deserve.
I'm telling you what, if an author sticks an epilogue, it is like sticking the gymnastics. Like, it can make or break a book for me.
Yeah.
Genuine.
It is that final, almost kind of like, I don't like a knockout punch, basically, where it's just like, okay, it finished me off. Like, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good.
And
So yeah.
famously, there was a book that you and I both read. I liked the whole damn thing, and the epilogue, I was like, unnecessary. It like ruined the book for me. And it took it from, it's a good book, like 90% of it, and you're like, why would that derail you so much? It's like, because it was just so unnecessary. It's like there's an art to how you stop it, I think.
But
And
I
I'm
will
not
say,
saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying I can know when it
yeah, it
feels
is
good.
the hardest part. And I agree. I think an ending can make or break the book. And people often focus on the beginning, which is obviously also important, especially when you're trying to sell a book, because that's what people see first.
Yeah.
But I think the ending, in terms of like reader satisfaction, that is the most important part. And so the hardest, because you need to bring it all like full circle and tie everything up in a way that, again, like, I keep saying this, but like in a way that the story deserves. Because you're like, the whole story is a trail. See how I did that? The whole story is
Yeah.
a trail leading to a destination, and it has to be the right destination for the trail.
Well, I think that I want to see Carrie Strug when she had a broken ankle in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And she stuck that landing.
Oh man, everybody in this character is definitely injured.
Yeah. So that's what I want to see. I wanted to just say though, like, as we close out here, um, and into our last section, as we talk about this, a lot of times, I could be enjoying the book the whole time, but if there's one nugget, if there's one part that speaks to me, that I can take one thing away from a book, like, I'm genuinely pretty pleased that I've read it. I feel like there's at least one thing that I can take away from every book and I wanted to ask you as the author, like, what was your one thing that you took away? And maybe there were many things, but what's the biggest thing that stood out to you? And that could be from a personal or a professional that you learned or just stuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I hope people take away from the book is that you can find kind of strength and power within yourself, even when you feel like you don't have any and when everything is stacked against you. So I would say, I think that's what I took away from the book. I don't know if the end of this book still, agrees with that sentiment, but that's kind of the main sentiment I get from the book.
Yeah. What is something that you're going to do different next time for your next book?
That's
Throughout your writing process, planning process. I know this one took a long time to get here. Just anything that you took away of, I'm definitely going to do this again, and I definitely won't do that again.
After everything that happened with Broken Trail, so I'm unagented at this point. So I sold directly to my publisher. So the one thing I've told myself I'm going to do differently this time is have an agent first, because publishing without an agent can be great. And if things go as planned, but just like with the characters in my book, things didn't go entirely as planned with the publication of this book. And it would have been nice to kind of have someone knowledgeable in the industry to sort of know what sorts of questions to ask and what steps to take at every point. So I would say that's the main thing I'm doing differently with the book I'm shopping around now.
Nice.
The other thing,
yeah,
to go out, I have already, I finished one book since Broken Trail, and I have a couple others on the go. But
okay.
Yeah, the one I wrote right after Broken Trail, my main character is a polar opposite from Clara. She's confident and brash and energetic, and every decision she makes is the right decision. So I don't know if that was it wasn't an entirely intentional diversion, but I think my brain was we are done with the worrying wet blankets.
That's amazing. Did that feel cathartic to you as a writer to just not be smothered in that wet blanket feeling?
Yes, it was very fun to write the character in the next book.
I just recently saw this takeaway that Michael B. Jordan had to have some therapy after doing the role of Killmonger because he was so aggressive and just took over his spirit. Do you ever feel like that's something that a writer needs to work through, go to therapy or just do some kind of ritual to take off the character?
Yeah, I do. Especially depending, because you're in your character's thoughts, not even when you're writing, but all day long, you're thinking about it. Um, and if your character is a whiny, indecisive baby like
Oh, baby,
Clara,
that was much.
you start to take that on, and then you're wait, why am I?
Mopey, yes.
Yeah. So definitely
So, if we looked at your credit card purchases during that time, would we see that you made indecisive decisions or more comfort or and looking at things would it be forensically if we're looking at your trash or whatever, will we
I
see
know that would be
differences in the
so
second book?
actually, to see what different behaviors you do.
Then it's representative, genuinely.
Yeah.
Videos of you doing K-pop dances on Instagram.
Well, I was gonna say, actually, I saw Rachel Harrison last summer at a signing, and I can't remember which book she was talking about, but she said while she was writing one of her books, it was very disturbing, the research she was doing, and it just felt kind of icky. And so she would decompress by watching BTS videos on YouTube. And I was that's so relatable.
That's great, right? Sure. Okay, so that perfectly sums up the thought of you have to really shift, at least energetically, you have to shift the vibes, take it off in some way.
Definitely. You have to swing that pendulum all the way in the opposite direction. So you retain more of yourself than your characters.
So do you want to give us a little bit of a preview as we close out here on what book 2 and the other ones that are coming down the line? Do you want to practice your pitch again a few more times? I don't mind.
Let's not call it a pitch because that's a lot of pressure. But yeah, the book that I'm shopping around right now, I love. It's called Altered, and it's an Arctic horror.
Ooh, Arctic, man, that sounds. I'm already that sounds fucking wicked.
I think it's super fun. So the main hook is that the main character is she's overwintering in the Arctic for this research mission of her dreams, and she goes up there and things kind of start to spiral out of control. And she's out alone on the ice and finds a corpse with her own face. But then no one else at the station believes her, and she can't find it again. And then, yeah, things start to kind of unravel, and she's not sure who to trust.
Thank you in advance for the arc, reader. For that. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Holy shit, that
No, that
sounds
sounds so
incredible.
good.
That's another like trope, like cold as fuck out in the middle of nowhere. Like, and then I always am tripped out by that scene in Lord of the Rings where he's like looking down into the bodies under the water. They're just looking up. So the fact that this
Yes.
is like the frozen, like,
Yeah.
no. So yeah, I'll be ready to read that. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
When is the expected? You said your agent. Did you sell that one directly too yet, or you're in the process?
Shopping.
No,
Shopping.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Shopping that one around.
I
So
can
fingers
listen and pay attention. I
Mhm.
swear. I think I just got so excited. Like,
Any
when's it out?
Yeah.
agents are listening. I have this great book.
Yeah. So, Broken Trail, the audiobook is available right now, right?
Yes, audiobook and I believe ebook has
Okay.
been like inconsistently available. But
Fun.
I think I'm able to share this news now because it's on Publishers Weekly. But Camcat has officially been bought by Marvel Press. So I have a publisher and I have a distributor, and like everything should be. I'm still confirming the date. Like right now, it's January 13th, but I haven't got. I have a feeling it's going to be pushed back slightly just because of this transition. But everything is the go, and it should be.
Nice. Well, I read it as an ebook and I also listened to the audio. It is an excellent audio. The narrator did an awesome job with it, I thought.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very impressed. She did amazing.
Yes.
Final question: on the official pub day that you can hold it in person, what are you doing to celebrate since it's been a long journey?
Honestly, after all of this, like I had like all these ideas of like I'm gonna do like an appearance and I'm gonna have champagne, and now I'm like I'm just probably gonna clap and have a bath and cheers myself. Like I don't know. I'll be like, yay, it's finally done.
Look, if you need any inappropriate thoughts on where to like pose as like a bear taking a shit in the like, you know, something like, you know, with your book, like you can have fun with it. Like
It's got to be something owl, you know.
or something like that. We could like send some face tutorials, like paint your face like an owl. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
here's
that's
the
a
thing.
good idea. Maybe I will do some fun owl themed thing.
Even
I
if
will.
it's
Yeah.
just like crazy funny, as my joke, my point was to make you finish your. You worked hard on this. I want you to feel like I know it was like you know marathon, and you came across the finish line, and but it's good work and it should be celebrated. And I know you're on to other things now, but I hope you'll take the time to celebrate yourself. And even if that's in funky, silly ways, and as a community, we can support you and just all like hoot at you for the day or something like that, you know?
Yes, I love that idea. And thank you guys so much for supporting
You
me
could do like
and
hashtag
loving my
show me
book.
your,
'Cause
hashtag
I
show
do
me your
too.
Hooters and be like, who's with you? Who just listen. I'm just trying to support her.
Yeah,
okay?
I
You don't
hear
have
you.
to you can't see how he just judges.
Prove it. No. But no, I hope it's definitely something to be proud of. It is a great book. I really loved it. Obviously, I read it twice in the last like month or so. I think that I just really can't wait for people to really, you know, get their hands on it and enjoy it.
Me
And
neither.
yes, we'll all hoot at you.
Yes, I will. I'll have a online hootathon now.
I really like that. I mean,
Get your hooters ready out of the attic.
people would have a good time with it.
Absolutely.
Whether that's, you know, you can even just use your own little fingers to like make your big owl eyes.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Yeah. But as support, because I think all authors would and readers have known like this is a true labor of love. And especially no one would like to have the experience that you did. And I'm so glad that things are going, you know, better. And
It's unfortunately it seems like it's a
I
story
know.
that's happening to a lot of people. Obviously our friend Monique, you know, has a
Tale as old as no, we don't want to hear
No,
that.
it's not.
It's a
Unfortunately, I mean,
tricky
fortunately it's not. But yeah,
Isn't
just
that what I'm saying? Though?
lots
It's
of
common.
yeah. Recently though.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, you know, but
It's like shitty because like the other things was like you hear about certain presses like not paying people. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, so it's a wild, wild west out there in some of these situations. So yeah, we're gonna hoot at you.
Yep.
We're gonna have a fun day.
Get
I'm
that
proud
book in
of you.
people's hands for sure.
Yes, good for you. And thanks for joining us. We love talking with you. And I was being facetious about the arc, but if you do want to send it, I will read it.
Yeah, I would love you guys to read it.
Absolutely.
So definitely.
That is my jam.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So excited. Thank you. This was awesome. Hope can't wait. We will continue to update on all our pages when people can get the physical copy, but we'll send them to the audiobook at least for now.
Amazing. Thank you. You guys are awesome.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
You too.
Enjoy the Stray Kids movie. When is it?
Yeah, you too.
Yes.
I hope you
See ya.